very happy to be here with Craig Beardsworth at Sweet. Thank you for having us.
No problem.
It's wonderful to be here. I was just wondering if we could maybe start with your connection to the gallery. How did that begin?
Certainly. So I've been here almost 3 years. The gallery's been going for 13, and it's one of those classic cases of just knowing people. It's Wellington. I was working for Art Zone and Art Magazine, and I was ringing David regularly to either write it out as artists or sell advertising to his artists. And so on several occasions he sent through Westra images actually, along with other artists. So you start to make a connection, and then one day I got a job. Basically, David asked me to come, and so that's my basic introduction to Sweet. But also specifically Westra, because he would send images and we would put them in the magazine, and I started sort of connecting with them that way.
That sounds amazing. I'm interested in this idea of sort of the exhibition space. People are come and look, and you've got the beautiful courtyard out the back, and I'm just wondering what it means to have that sort of I suppose engagement with the public. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, there's some people buy things online straight off a computer. Ultimately, art is always going to have a far stronger effect when you actually view it yourself. You don't get any idea of the scale, on a computer screen, and so the images around us, for example, when you see it so large, you don't get that impression. Also, texture as well, with paintings especially. So the bricks and mortar gallery certainly is very important. Art's always going to make more of an impact live, I think, than online.
Yeah, it is quite incredible. I think the photographers, there's a lot of photography in a lot of places, but seeing them is a very different experience, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As I say, it doesn't really work online, I don't think, as well.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think is distinctive about the work that's shown here, as well as Ans' work, but what do you think is distinctive about the work that you show?
Well, every gallery is going to say that it's a reflection of, I guess, the director's vision or the director's interests, and that would be the same here. The only distinction being that it's a reflection specifically of David, and to a lesser extent me. I've now got some, certainly David always passes by, hey, this new artist has sent us something, do you think this might work? And we certainly discuss those things together. But in terms of what might be distinctive, David's time in Holland when he finished his degree would certainly have had some influence in that he connected with Ans because of her Dutch heritage. Also, one of our other artists, Arie Hellendoorn, is Dutch, and so there was sort of a natural interest there. One of the other things certainly that might make us distinctive is sort of intergenerational artists. So, for example, we've got Richard Lua, who's a New Zealand Australian artist, and two of his students at the Victorian College of the Arts are now our artists. He said, look, you should have a look at these guys. They're coming through the course at the moment. They're in their third or honours year. And the same thing with Roger Boyce, who is a lecturer at the Canterbury School of Fine Arts. And we've had 2 or 3 actually of his artists who've come through the gallery because he's been saying, hey, check this out. So that's probably a distinctive thing as well, is that sort of intergenerational line.
That's really nice. One of the things that I also think about this gallery is that you are right in quite a busy part of Wellington, Cuba Street is quite busy, and I just wonder, what is it to be in this area? Do you have thoughts about, there are a few galleries and,
Look, certainly it's always going to help when there are other like-minded businesses around, but that's the beauty of Wellington. Now, in my time with the magazine before I was at the gallery, I would visit Auckland a lot, visiting clients, and in Auckland, because of the price of rent, I guess, in the main areas, most of those galleries are quite ghettoised in streets off K Road or streets off Ponsonby Road or upstairs in the central city. And I think what the beauty of Wellington specifically is that the rent's not quite so crazy, or the mortgages aren't quite so crazy. So most of the galleries have street frontage or are very accessible, that you don't have to search for them too hard. So I'm sure that has made a huge difference to all the galleries actually. I mean, within 3 city blocks, I think we've got, bar one gallery, we've got pretty much all the art galleries, all just about on that one circle.
It's pretty great, eh? One of the really distinctive things is obviously the Ans Westra Museum, and I do wonder, like, to have a private space dedicated to one artist, as there is here at Sweet, it's quite unprecedented, and I just wonder if you would be able to talk a little bit about how that sort of began, or how that relationship started.
So that was certainly the brainchild of David Elsa, the director, in conjunction with Ans. And yes, it certainly is unique, but it's partly a reflection of the size of the collection. Now her oeuvre would be 120, 130,000 images. Most of which have not been seen by the public. She didn't actually develop that many in the darkroom. So it was, once the Trust and David and Ans decided to gift the collection to National Library, we obviously retain the licensing, but now that it's down there, it is actually more accessible to the public. We're getting people regularly asking about images. And so it's even more important to have a space where people can actually view those things. It's such a vast collection.
Yeah.
So, and there's also, just because of the nature of her documentary photography, there are multiple publications and school journals and government documents, and again this now increasing library of books that they're using her images, so we can now present them so people can get a sort of really wide overview of what her work actually encapsulated.
It's quite incredible up there. Like I was just thinking about I think you spoke about it, like the 60th anniversary one, like people must react in a very special way to these images.
That's the beauty of documentary photography.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we had an exhibition here last year celebrating 60 years of Ans being in New Zealand. And we had a similar to this, a bank of her photography, some of them are of the Springbok tour. And documentary photography obviously sparks people's memories, and so we had people coming in here reliving their experience, or indeed it might be sort of quite an innocuous image of somewhere in Rotorua or somewhere in wherever, and people will connect with that image, and all of a sudden you'll get stories, and that's really, really moving, I guess, for me as well, but very helpful.
Yeah, because I think I found that very moving, just, you know, being out there. And what does it mean, I guess, that relationship is quite you know, it's one that's been ongoing, isn't it?
With Ans.
With Ans,
absolutely.
Yeah,
She's still very much instrumental in decision making.
Great.
She's stubborn, and so she should be, because it's her collection, so we still pass most ideas past her to make sure she's happy, as an artist should be treated like that.
It's just such a wonderful thing, because I guess as well as everything else, it's almost like looking after some public memory as well, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're custodians, I guess. It's the reason why we think the collection is so important, and arguably one of the most important documentary collections, is that it is a snapshot of about 50 years, 60 years of New Zealand life. No one else was as bolshy as Ans to go on to Marae, or to go to Tangi, or to go to places where she may not have actually always been invited necessarily. She obviously asked, and was documenting things that no one else was documenting at the time. So
it's magnificent. Thank you so much for your work. It's just wonderful, and thanks for having us today. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to see you. I was wondering if you can remember how you and David first met, perhaps, or...
Yes, well, een handboek, dat luidt Birger, dat went to Holland. Part of it, the Maori part, was exhibited in Holland, in Leiden. And I would meet people on the Sunday and answer questions about the pictures or about New Zealand mainly. They were all interested in the country. And the very last one of those talks, David and Susanna came with little Hugo in a pushchair. They were based in Amsterdam and they'd heard that, this New Zealand photographer was exhibiting, and so, and it was in the Museum for Ethnic Art, Volkenkunde, which is in the town where I was born. So that's when we met, and David had already taken an interest in collecting photography. He was buying one artist's work in Amsterdam, and he brought those works back with him. So when he started the gallery in Newtown, I'd had a toy world in Auckland, an exhibition that there was still quite a number of pictures over that hadn't sold, and so I said to David, would he want an exhibition of the remainder of that? And oh yes, and that's how it started.
That's amazing.
Yeah, ultimately he took over from FHE, and he was much better at selling, so they weren't very impressed in Auckland.
That's so great. And I'm just wondering, like, this is such a wonderful room, and I wonder, what does it feel like? It must feel wonderful to sit here with all your work.
Well, it was David's idea when they could get the whole building as such. There were initially students living here. And when their lease ran out, a little bit extra, David took on the upstairs as well. But of course, downstairs he has his other gallery artists, and it was just the opportunity, and gradually they found that people would mainly come here and spend time with the work. It is so much the history of New Zealand that's in my work, over 60 more years, so yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying to Craig, I found it quite emotional coming up here, like just to see it all. It just is so magnificent. I just want to say thank you as well. Thank you. In the courtyard, there are some of your photos that are quite big.
Yes.
What's it like to be around them very big?
When we first put them up, they worked with the buildings behind it quite well. It was just fun to do. And so they've had concerts in front of it, and they can blow up that big. Not every one of them. I've also worked with little toy cameras, with the good lenses. You can easily enlarge them to that size. So wall size. Yeah. And there are around the world some of my pictures that New Zealanders have put in their houses.
Because they're bigger than human size, aren't they? Like the people in them are bigger.
Yeah. Yes. There's one in the cafe in Taupo, one of the Volkswagen. The portrait that I took of myself to show my mother what life here was like.
And now it's in Taupo.
It's in the cafe there, and it's on everything. It's on the staff. It's just somebody else who was collecting my work. There are a number around. And of course the galleries collect, but the negatives are all in the National Archive. And once I've gone, nobody will have access to them. They're being digitized, so you can get prints from the digital files. But the film is too delicate if you don't preserve it properly. The deteriorates.
Yeah.
There's a gelatin layer in it that you can get bugs in. And you always have to be careful processing your films. Yeah, especially color, but I've been quite lucky. The color has held its own. Ratana found such a colorful location that had to have color. And then nature is colorful, so I started off in color with that. And just going back to black and white on nature as well. just doing a little portfolio of that. So yeah, I've worked in all kinds of film stock and cameras.
Because that's what I was thinking, like I was noticing your camera today.
Yeah.
And there's a photo of another camera over there. And I was thinking, gosh, you've worked in a lot of different technologies over the years.
Yes. Well, I was lucky that I had a reasonable technical bent. I started in New Zealand actually, working in a camera shop as well, and it was very much a male domain. I would be the manager of the business, and you could see people's faces drop, and I had to come in and explain the camera and how to use it. But anyway, yes, I've gone from film, where you have 12 or 35 millimeter, you have 36 little pictures, to the digital, which I can enlarge these to the same size because they have good lenses on them, and it's just such a handy little camera. But the trick is I can still look down, so I can still. It's the same as what you do with the Rolleiflex. So I can be sitting there. I photographed in Europe on the beach and in the train and in the tram, and they think I'm just looking at my pictures or checking something. All the time I'm photographing. And just the number that you have in digital, you know, the card can hold 3,000 images. And the advantage of it is that you can get ideas as you're photographing. You don't have to plan it all out beforehand and just have the 12 pictures, and often number 12 is the best, or you wish you had one more. But now you can actually carry on, and you can see that you've got what you want, that the composition is right, and that, yeah.
That sounds incredible. And I'm always interested in that sort of, you know, as you can see around here, you know, like there are your photos in books, there are your photos on the wall, there are all different ways of reproducing the work as well, eh?
Yes. And certainly when you have it on file, it's just a matter of preserving and making sure that technology doesn't change and you can't actually recall it. You lose your pictures eventually. It is being preserved in different places now. Get somebody to download it. But just as well digital wasn't there earlier, because the number of pictures I've taken since digital came in, and awfully hard to find things.
Yeah, like
the cataloguing.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ans. It's lovely to talk to you, and thank you for your beautiful work. It's really lovely to sit here and amongst it. It's great. Thank you so much.